Hi, my name is Kristina. I'm one of the Sustainability and Climate Change Advisors from McDonald. I'm just going to quickly run through the survey results that we got back from a project that we did with the Climate Ready team, which is part of the Environment Agency. We engaged with over 200 stakeholders through an online survey, through a workshop, and through one-to-one interviews to evaluate current training, learning and development provision within 7 key sectors. So I'll give a quick overview of what the general findings were and then go into the built environment sector. But the 7 sectors were the natural environment, agriculture and forestry, the built environment, infrastructure, local authorities and health and well-being. And we also did sort of an extensive literature review as well. And from the responses that we got on what is currently available and what stakeholders would like to see, we developed recommendations to help build this learning adaptive capacity. And then we're hoping that sort of the outputs from that help sort of guide the Climate Ready team's strategies to help support build this. So just a very quick overview about the online survey that we did. We sent out, I think, just over 1,000 invitations to take part in the survey, and we had 186 complete responses come back. And we did target a wide range of audiences because we did want to sort of equally cover all of the 7 sectors. And we had sort of internal contact lists, we had contact lists from the Climate Ready team, and then we also tried to sort of pinpoint sustainability people within sort of sector-specific or sector representative organisations as well. And from the responses, we did get quite an even sort of split over the 7 sectors. So we did find that the local authority sector was quite keen to get engaged. I think they were the happiest to come back and talk with us. In general, there were 3 main key issues that kept popping up. The main one was a lack of knowledge transfer. So there are organisations and people doing brilliant work, but a lot of people just aren't aware of it. They're not aware of the work that's being done. They're not aware of tools that other people are providing that they could be using themselves. And they would like to see more of a sort of cohesive approach to addressing adaptation. In a lot of the sectors, they also found that the current workforce, as well as new employees entering the workforce, did not have, or they had limitations to their capacity to be able to take on the adaptation agenda. And this is mirrored in the built environment specific responses that we had. What stakeholders wanted to see was an encouragement in innovation. Just like with the infrastructure sector, innovation is really, really important. It's how you get new ideas and adapt to changes in regulation or changes in demand and sort of changes in context. They wanted to see an increased awareness of climate change risks, opportunities and responses. Again, this is linked with sort of creating knowledge exchange and information exchange partnerships, because there are people who are doing good work out there, and it's not being showcased enough. There are currently some organisations that are providing training. So the BRA, for example, they've got training courses, but they're not. I don't know if it's that they're not widely advertised enough or if they're not accessible enough for most people, but there are only a few specialists that are sort of going on to these courses and taking advantage of them. Stakeholders did find that SMEs should be the priority to be targeted, and SMEs and micro contractors, because they quite often don't have the resources or the time to be able to sort of develop those skills on top of their day-to-day business. And as I mentioned, they'd like more partnership working and more networks to share this information. And they wanted climate change adaptation skills developed in general. There are people who are specialists And I feel like I'm kind of talking myself out of a job, because we're the ones going around sort of giving this information, but what they want is they want people in-house within the organisations, or they want everyone with that organisation to be aware of adaptation and then the necessity of it, rather than having to come to one of us to say, oh, well, you should be considering X, Y, and Z. They were also sort of, because the built environment is linked very closely with local governments and with the infrastructure sectors, for example, they did want sort of the capacity of engineers and planners to also be sort of improved in line with sort of their in-house capacity, and they also wanted life cycle approaches and life cycle thinking to be promoted as well. It is beginning, as mentioned before. There are organisations that are already doing it, but it's not widespread enough. It's not the normal thing to do. It's an add-on at the moment, and it really, well, in their eyes, it shouldn't be. As mentioned in one of the previous presentations, that if you do have a new bit of kit or a new bit of technology in a house or in a home, you also need to make sure that the people within the home know how to operate it. Or if you have an integrated building management system, you need to be able to make sure that your facilities manager knows how to properly use that and how to properly regulate it to get the most out of it. There's not much point in having this expensive stuff in there if people don't know how to use it or are actually sort of maladapting through it. For the last one, on top of developing the advanced, sort of the actual skills and the learning for the planners and engineers, they also wanted general awareness levels to be raised, but they sort of stakeholders felt that it was more of a low importance rather than a medium importance, and they felt that sort of the engineers and the planners should be targeted, instead of just the awareness side, they should be targeted straight into the building their skills and their training. And we came up with a few recommendations to try and help address these. We believe that sort of, providing information for the general public on these issues may help drive demand. So instead of just having the regulations, having the top-down approach of forcing people into it, if you drive demand from the bottom up, it might sort of in tandem with sort of the top-down approaches, it might help promote the adaptation agenda a bit quicker. And this would be targeted slightly more towards the private sector rather than the social housing side. To address the issue that the current workforce doesn't have, that they don't have the skills or the learning adaptive capacity to take on climate change adaptation, we suggested that skills councils and professional institutions are engaged with, so that adaptations can come into continued professional development, into qualifications, into training, so that when people do go on to these training courses, that it is brought into the background and mainstreamed a bit more. And then on a similar note, to sort of try and attack the newcomers into the workforce, that sort of universities and academic institutions are engaged with as well, just to make sure that people who are coming into the industry are aware of these issues, and that they will have to be able to deal with them, and that they're happy to do so when it comes along. And then we didn't sort of recommend that sort of the Climate Ready team do this on their own, but we did think that it would be useful for them to get the ball rolling on including adaptation into building regulations, into legislation, because what stakeholders found, or what we found from stakeholders, is that quite a lot of people do the basic minimums, and they look to the building regulations to design their buildings. And as mentioned before, if adaptation were mentioned, if that were included, then they would automatically have to include that into their designs, and rather than just being this sort of nice add-on that you could have on the side. And as well, we thought that if large organisations and local authorities and housing associations could also help in including adaptation into their tender documents, or into their proposals that if someone did want to bid for a project, that they had to include adaptation measures into their projects. It seemed to work quite well for a lot of local authorities with ISO 14001, so there might be the potential to do a similar thing. And last but not least, sort of mentioning it again, it's the information sharing and partnerships that was a key recommendation that came out of our work, is that there are good things happening, not just within the UK, but sort of globally or just in Europe, for example, and we can be learning from the countries that are experiencing the climate that we are projected to be experiencing. We should be learning from them to adapt our practices to what they're doing currently. Does anyone have any questions?
One thing that came out also was the same ISO 14001, and all the projects we spoke to who had signed up to it said they will not be renewing it.
Okay.
And they said they were not renewing it because the directive that it was going to be made part of adaptation to go to some kind of environmental standard that they were going to fulfill when they stand up to create a bond. So I'd be interested to know whether that's just a sectoral issue, whether that's just that local authorities that want to do it or whether that's being more widespread. But more on the building regulation side, I completely agree that if you get this in the beginning about future bed, I guess my concern is that when you look at government, they all have territory. And the environmentalists in definitely don't have any territory with this. This would be more DCOG. And where the environmentalists have been able to kind of get some traction to bring in that policy around buffers. But again, that's not in the building regulations. So, I mean,
all three funding. So the focus then is required for the national housing program. But currently that's undertaken from the standards review. And I think it's really important to know, often people might say we're not aware of specific adaptation training, but of course within is anyone who a co-assessor, so within that you get in-depth training on calculation of water use in a home, you get in-depth training on flood analysis and how to get a proper assessment. So there's quite a bit here, but we should all be really aware and concerned that there's a standards review happening, and the Global Housing Program does fund close to 20%, if not more, all new build housing. But I think more important than all of that, not particularly mentioned building regulations, it's not the issue. It is not the issue. The issue is the 25 million existing homes that we have. It's not builders that we need to worry about. It's contractors. People like United House, Lake House, Mears. What we want to get to is people that go into existing homes. And where they are doing some work to existing homes, we want them to consider adaptation. That's the first one. The whole day. So, but you might have some comments as well.
I think actually might be a good point opening up for a brief bit of discussion, and I'm conscious we could actually have a break and then come back. I feel that there's
we've done about 100 reviews of organisations and some depth. And learning is the thing that always comes out always. It's just terrible. And the things that are missing is those things that came out of research. But these are very low-level learning interventions, very basic skills. And the reason we've asked you is that we can do those. What's completely missing from this is the higher level learning that would be for a strategic response to the environment, which is more the sort of knowledge sharing networks can do this if they provide an environment in a particular way. But the innovation learning is quite different.